This is America on the Road, winner of the International Automotive Media Conference Gold Medal Award for Radio, and now in its 24th year on the air. Thanks for being with us as we bring you the latest automotive information from around the world. We have a little sad news, actually, to report today, among other things, but we'll tell you about that in a minute. America on the Road is brought to you by DrivingToday.com and the Coalition for Vehicle Choice. I'm Jack Nerad. With me is co-host Chris Teague. We're doing it a little differently today because I'm not in Southern California. I'm actually in the environs of Detroit. I'm in Ann Arbor, Michigan. Chris, though, is still in Maine, correct?
Same place as always, Jack. At least we're in the same time zone, I believe, right?
We are in the same time zone. Usually we're doing cross time zones, but we're in the same time zone as we're doing this. Have all the leaves fallen off the trees there in Maine, or is fall color in full regalia?
They have all fallen and have all been dispatched as of yesterday, actually. So I'm happy with my weekend spent breaking leaves.
So they're long gone. Oh, interesting. Yeah. So
things move quickly. Once they get started, it's all downhill from here.
Right. Well, I was traveling a little farther south, but also in the Eastern time zone over the course of the last week, and I was wondering if we were going to see fall colors in the Smoky Mountains, but they had not really started even to turn yet. So that was a little interesting to me. I thought that might be happening, but now. And we will talk about that long-distance travel later in the show. Our special guest today is Jim Danahy. He is a Chevrolet Executive Chief Engineer for the Chevy Tahoe and Chevy Suburban. They're big sport utility vehicles, and they are all new for 2021. So he's going to give us a lowdown on those two very important vehicles. I'll tell you, Chevy really depends on its trucks and SUVs, and you have some interesting Chevy news too as well. In the car review segment, we'll be talking about the 2021 Toyota Highlander Hybrid. My wife Sandi and I took that vehicle on a 2,500-mile test drive, so pretty lengthy test drive across much of the eastern United States and across a couple time zones, so we'll talk about that. And Chris, you were driving the what?
The 2021 Subaru Crosstrek, and by the way, I think this is the first time we've both had 2021 vehicles to review.
Yeah, I think you're right. And this is a time when you might be shopping for a 2020 or 2021. So both are out there and on dealer lots, probably more 2020s than is typical this time of year, but we'll talk about that. And let's talk about some of the latest automotive news from around the globe. But what do you got to start us off with, Chris?
I'll start with the more upbeat of the stories that I rounded up here. So many people have probably heard about the Porsche Taycan, which is their electric, you can call it a supercar, I guess. It's got all the supercar numbers, the acceleration, insane acceleration and power numbers. But as it turns out, that new EV, which reaches well into the six figures in price tag, is their best-selling vehicle that's not an SUV. So the Macan was still their top seller. The Cayenne was second, and then the Taycan took third place. So over many other legendary, very popular sports cars, the EV took the car trophy for Porsche for the third quarter, I should say.
Well, and interesting stuff. And I think Tesla might be a little nervous at being attacked from all sides as its product line gets older and older. So we'll have to see what happens with that.
I think it's especially telling given the price tags of the Taycan. So many people, I think it was almost 2,000 people lined up to buy one. So it's pretty significant considering, like I said, again, the six-figure plus price tag.
Yeah, it is not a cheap one, that's for certain. Sad news today really struck me personally because I knew this guy pretty well, and I had known him actually for probably 30 or 40 years, but I really got to know him as I worked with him over the course of the last 2 or 3 years on a special project, and I'm talking about an auto journalist and photographer named John Lamb, longtime writer and photographer for Road and Track magazine. If you saw Road and Track anytime between about 1980 and the year 2000, you were seeing a lot of John Lamb's work, both in terms of writing and photography. A really genuinely nice guy. I as I say, got to know him much better. I was a contemporary of his when I was editor of Motor Trend magazine, and he was at Road and Track. But then we didn't cross paths all that much because he was doing his thing and I was doing mine. But then we worked together over the course of about a year and a half, fairly recently. And I really got to know him well, and I just found him to be such a great guy and so filled with really interesting stories. It's like the names Mario Andretti and Phil Hill would just, drop off his lips as if it were nothing because he spent so much of his time with those guys. And so just a terrific writer, terrific photographer, and, best of all, a great human being. And we're so sorry that he has passed away.
Absolutely.
The reason I'm in Detroit is for North American Car, Utility, and Truck of the Year testing. There are 27 new vehicles that have made the semi-finalist list, so I'm going to be busy over the course of the next several days testing all these. 8 cars, 15 utility vehicles, and 4 trucks. And it's a wild combination of stuff, as you would probably guess, because it's vehicles that are essentially either all new or really significantly renewed for the 2021 model year, and you have a wide variety. And it is very telling about the market that the largest category now is the utility of the year, and there's just a ton of them. There's just so many, including one of the subjects of our interview, or a couple of subjects of our interview today, the Chevrolet Tahoe and Suburban.
Yeah, I think you and I talked a little bit about this before on the air. The number of utility vehicles and the number of trucks and vehicles in all that have been renewed and updated for the 2021 model year is significant. But it'll be interesting to see where you guys land on what's best.
Right. One of the Truck of the Year contenders is the Ford F-150, which is all new for 2021. And according to a news report we were talking about before we went on the air, maybe that's coming just in time.
That is true. It's a report. It's just barely edging out, but GM is barely edging out Ford in the truck category. And keep in mind that also includes GMC and Chevrolet. So they kind of have a twofer in terms of going against Ford. But they sold just a few, I think it's under 1,000 vehicles more, or have sold under 1,000 vehicles more so far this year. So it'll be interesting to see where it lands. But for Ford, the new truck can't come soon enough. I'm guessing they're starting to be, I won't say nervous, but they're probably getting excited about the new product coming out because they've held the title of best-selling vehicle for so long.
Right. And as you switch from vehicle to vehicle, as a car company, I'm not a car company. I don't even think you're a car company, are you, Chris? But
sometimes.
Yeah. We'd have more money to spend probably. But as you transition from model to model, the mix gets funny. By that I mean the vehicles that are out in dealerships are not necessarily 100% what consumers want, and thus sales fall off. Sales immediately pick up when the new stuff comes along. So I don't think Ford is in imminent danger of losing its title as the best-selling vehicle in America. But it is interesting that the combined GM pickups have outsold F-150 over the course of this last little bit here.
Yes, it is. But again, I think the new F-150, it was one of the vehicles I was very excited about when we talked about new models on the last episode. So I think a lot of people are feeling the same way. So they won't be, if they are hurting, which I doubt it, but if they are, they won't be for long.
Right. When we come back, we will be taking a look at the 2021 Toyota Highlander Hybrid, midsize SUV that I traveled in for 2,500 miles. 2,500 miles at the wheel really allows you to get to know a vehicle, so we're going to talk about that. And Chris, you were driving the 2021 Subaru Crosstrek, so that should be interesting to see how that differs from previous models of Crosstrek, if at all. So
I did not take it on a 2,500 mile road trip, but quite a long distance, so we got a good idea.
Yeah, I'm sure you have a good idea as well. It doesn't always take 2,500 miles, that is certain. So when we come back, we'll be talking about that. Stay with us, everybody, with Chris Teague. This is Jack Nerad, and this is America on the Road. Welcome back, everybody, to America on the Road with Chris Teague. Jack Nerad back with you, and it is road test time right here on America on the Road. Of course, you probably tune in to hear our road tests because we love to ring out and talk about the vehicles that we've driven over the course of the last week. And some fairly cool stuff, I'd say, we have, including a very lengthy road test that I was on. But before we do that, let's talk about the 2021 Subaru Crosstrek, one of their most popular vehicles, and Subaru doing a great job these days. Tell us about that, Chris.
I agree on the great job, and they've done a pretty decent job updating the Crosstrek for 2021. So I've spent the week in the Sport trim, which is just below the limited trim in the model sort of walkthrough. Subaru calls it an SUV. I would call it a raised hatchback. Where you fall on that spectrum depends on how you feel about vehicle size, but it's certainly smaller than Subaru Outback wagon, and it's certainly larger than something like a Mazda 3 hatchback, if everyone's familiar with those. But this is the new. So they took the 2.5 liter engine out of the Subaru Legacy, the 4-cylinder, and now they've made it an upgraded engine available for the Crosstrek. It's 182 horsepower, 2.5 liter 4-cylinder Subaru Boxer engine, so that's available. It's standard on both the Sport and the Limited trims. They've done some updating to their safety tech. The EyeSight now includes advanced adaptive cruise control with lane centering. That's standard on the models with the CVT. And let's see, they also updated the front fascia, added new wheels. By and large, though, it's the same Crosstrek. If you line this one up in a row of other Crosstreks, it looks like a Crosstrek. So there's really nothing dramatic happening on the outside. I will say the addition of the 2.5 liter engine is a welcome one. I drove both the 2.0 liter engine equipped model, which is still in the lineup, and the plug-in hybrid last year, and wasn't super impressed with either of them in terms of refinement and acceleration, although those might not be the things that people are top of mind when they're shopping for a rugged SUV. But I felt like they could use a little bit more polishing. This 2.5 liter engine, I've had a lot of experience with it, both in my wife's Subaru Outback and other Subaru models like the Ascent. And it works well. It's extremely smooth. It plays well with the CVT. There's none of the whining or sort of outrageous engine sounds that comes with some CVTs, which allow the RPMs to go really high at certain points and really low at others. It's a comfortable vehicle. This one has, they call it StarTex upholstery. It's not leather, it's not vinyl quite, and it's not cloth, but this is water resistant. So this is great for spending time outdoors. Again, people buy these things want to take them out into the woods with their dogs and kayaks and things. So that's definitely playing to that market.
Is it made out of seaweed, or what? Do you have any idea what it's made out of? Is it a...
Oh, I would have to look that one up. It certainly feels premium compared to, like, I don't know, a few years ago, Volkswagen had their Softex or whatever it was called.
Yeah, and Mercedes-Benz has its MB Tex.
Yeah, same
that
thing.
Is, yeah. It's
feels
vinyl,
good,
vinyl kind of. Yeah.
Yeah, you wouldn't be unhappy with it if you were expecting an upgrade over a cloth interior. I'll say that. Let's see, ground clearance is excellent. It's got almost 8 inches of ground clearance. The safety features, the long list of safety features: blind spot monitors, rear cross traffic alerts. This model has parking sensors around it. It has a driver attention warning system. It has a very, I will say, annoyingly persistent lane departure warning system, which I finally figured out how to turn off. And it also has forward collision alerts. So that's all part of the Subaru EyeSight technology, which is their package, and they've done a really good job of it over the years. Interior space, myself as a 6-foot-tall driver had no problem fitting in front of a full-size car seat in the back. My 5-foot-tall wife in the passenger, again, had plenty of leg room to slide all over the place because of the great front leg room. Plenty of headroom. A couple of awkward positioning moments with the steering wheel and the driver's seat. The seating position is a little bit higher than I think a lot of people would like, but again, that's one of the benefits of driving a crossover. So I think that overall, the people that buy this thing will be very happy with it. The price tag for the Sport model with the upgraded engine is just under $30,000. I think it was $29,815. So not outrageously priced, and all around, I think they've done a good job with it. It drives more like a car than it does a big crossover or anything like that. The interior styling is a little plain, but again, I think that the market that that this thing is playing to will eat it up, and I hope they do, because it's a good vehicle.
Yeah, and absolutely. I think they know who the market is. They know who their buyers are. I think Subaru probably knows its buyers as well or better than any other automotive brand out there, certainly in North America. They just seem so attuned to what their buyers want and expect. And a lot of it is kind of warm and fuzzy as opposed to actually in the vehicle itself. The vehicles are just fine. I think they're really good, but they're not necessarily exceptional. But I think the way they cater to their buyer base is exceptional, and I think that's one of the major reasons for their success.
I agree. And I didn't think about this while I was driving it, although it's coming to mind now. Looking at the feature set, that's exactly what they've done with the upholstery and the all-weather floor mat in the back of the cargo area, so you can have a dog jump back there. They definitely have it under control.
Right. And they are dog friendly, and a lot of people have dogs, including the Nerad family, and we love our dog Austin, a car name actually. So there you go, cute dog. I was driving a cute car, and I drove it a long way, 2,500 miles. The 2020 Highlander, and most specifically the Toyota Highlander Hybrid, turned out to be the perfect vehicle for this cross-country trek. I'll talk a bit more about the trek in the next segment, but let me talk about the vehicle here. This is the fourth generation of the Highlander, probably the best-looking Highlander of all time. It's just a good-looking mid-size SUV. It will seat either 7 or 8, depending on how you configure it. Interestingly enough, the second row is 2 seats in the 7-passenger configuration with a bench seat that is nominally for 3 in the rear. And it works. I don't know that you want to put 3 adults in the rear seat for long periods of time, but we didn't do that. What it turned out to be was a terrific vehicle for my wife and myself, and then for this long-distance trek that we took. And then we were visiting daughters, grown daughters in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, so we spent a lot of time with them in the rear seats in the captain's chairs. And now that they're 22 and 25, they don't smack each other the way they did when they were 11 and 14, stuff like that. So that's good. They never smacked each other all that much anyway. But hybrid powertrain, and interesting the way they've done it. In a lot of the Toyota hybrid vehicles, the hybrid is the most powerful of the vehicles. It is not in the Highlander, but it's plenty powerful enough, and the fuel economy is just through the roof. The drivability is very, very good. It is filled with safety equipment, including the Toyota Safety Sense 2.0 that includes the pre-collision system. It has dynamic radar cruise control, adaptive cruise control that I used extensively on I-30 and I-20, et cetera, et cetera. Lane departure alert, I didn't have to use that too much. I'm pretty good at staying in the lines. Maybe it was from coloring as a kid. It has automatic high beams, lane tracing assist, and roadside sign assist, which is actually helpful. It helps you pick up what the speed limits are. Such a comfortable vehicle. They have finally solved the problem that they used to have with their infotainment systems. This one was both easy to see and easy to use, so we liked that a lot. It just turned out to be an absolutely perfect vehicle for what we were doing. Of course, we had the high zoot version, the Platinum edition, and the MSRP was around $52,000, so that's a lot for a mid-size SUV, but had everything. And this, as I say, the 12-inch touchscreen display worked perfectly now with Apple CarPlay, which was useful in doing all the navigation that it took to get from Dallas, Texas, all the way to the Smoky Mountains and then back to Dallas, Texas over the course of time. So just a good all-around vehicle, good safety equipment, good comfort and convenience equipment, good acceleration. Not a sports car in terms of handling, but handles very, very well and is extremely quiet over the road, and we appreciated that, putting in some 600-mile days. So just a lot to like about the Toyota Highlander Hybrid.
I agree with you on all points. I think Toyota's styling updates for 2021 for the Highlander have been great. They made it sportier without it making it look aggressive or silly in any way. The interior is still incredible, at least on the higher trims that I've seen. I do agree with you on the captain's chair debate in the middle row. I tend to like them better for children because it keeps them further apart. At least they don't have the seat in between them. And so the crossovers and SUVs that I've driven with captain's chairs tend to be better for them, and they like it better too because they have their own space. And maybe my only complaint about the Highlander would be the price at the top end, probably where you tested it. Really starting to edge up on Lexus territory in terms of the dollar amount. So I don't know what I'm expecting with all that tech and safety equipment and features, but that's really probably my only gripe about it.
Yeah, and I would say the value is certainly there, and the comfort and convenience and quiet is there. You just don't have a Lexus nameplate on this, but you really have the looks inside and out that in the Platinum version, certainly, that could compete with Lexus and other high-end vehicles. So overall, I think, as I say, great value, and we'll talk about our trip in the next segment. So two good ones here. The 2021 Subaru Crosstrek, kind of, I guess, mildly renewed. Is that the way you would describe it, Chris?
Yes, I would call it a mild update.
Yeah. And then the Highlander Hybrid, which we will talk about in the next segment as well. So with Chris Teague, this is Jack Nerad with you on America on the Road, speaking to you from Maine and Michigan this time around. Stay with us, everybody, and we'll be right back right here on America on the Road. Welcome back, everybody, to America on the Road with Chris Teague. Jack Nerad back with you, and this is a bit of a special edition of America on the Road because we're going to talk about a big American road trip, that I took with my wonderful wife, Sandi. She put up with me for the better part of 10 days, driving from Dallas, Texas, up into Arkansas, and then we went into Tennessee and drove across Tennessee, hitting high points in Tennessee, and then made our way back to Fort Worth, Texas. We have some family there that we were visiting. A couple of our daughters are down in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. So let me describe the trip to you a little bit because it is an American road trip in COVID times, which we had a little bit of trepidation about. It's not the easiest time, and I guess it's a pretty easy time to get a hotel, so you have that going for you. But in terms of other things, there's a bit of a challenge to it, a bit of a challenge in terms of restaurants and gas stations and all that. But if you're wearing a mask and doing all that stuff, we found that to be fairly easily done. Our first leg was from Dallas to Memphis, Tennessee. I actually had done some work long ago, and a guy who I worked with and was kind of a mentor to me in the business, a guy named Jackie Kahane, a fairly famous comedian, was the opening act for Elvis Presley, among other things. And oddly, I had never gone to Graceland. So it was my dream to go to Graceland and check that out. Of course, the home that Elvis Presley bought for himself and his mother and father along about 1956, I think. So I wanted to see that. I also wanted to see the Peabody Hotel and the famous duck parade that goes through the lobby of the Peabody Hotel there in Memphis. So Sandi and I got a chance to stay in a terrific room in the Peabody Hotel overlooking the Mississippi River. Saw the fountain where the ducks do their paddling around. And then went out to Graceland, and I just found it fascinating. I mean, maybe I'm just of that vintage. I mean, is Elvis something on your radar, Chris, or is that not interesting to you?
Well, I'm from Tennessee, and I grew up with my grandparents, so yes, he was. I've actually been to Graceland as well, so he's on my radar.
Okay, I think he's on a lot of people's radar, but actually walking through his house, and again, COVID turned out to be both a challenge and a bit of an advantage, I think, in going through Graceland, because they had to make the tour groups very, very small. So it turned out that Sandi and I, my wife and I, were our own group. And we ended up alone in Elvis's kitchen, Elvis's living room, Elvis's dining room, the jungle room. All of those rooms, we were just in there ourselves as opposed to with a crunch of other people. And it made it that much more interesting, I think. It was like being in somebody's home. And obviously we were in somebody's home, but somebody's home that's a museum. But it made it seem much less like a tour and much more like we're just visiting Elvis's home. And I found that fascinating. And then one thing I didn't realize, and you undoubtedly as a Tennessean realize this, is Elvis and his parents are buried there right at Graceland.
Yes.
So there's the swimming pool where they, used to have frivolity, I think probably a lot of frivolity and fun and all that. And then not more than, I don't know, half a dozen steps away is the eternal flame and their grave sites. I found that very interesting.
It certainly works well with the tourist attraction aspect of all of it.
Right. So from there, we were driving, of course, the Toyota Highlander Hybrid and took off from there on a very interesting byway. We decided to go off the interstates for a large portion of this trek and went up to Nashville, our next experience. My wife is a major country music fan, and we stayed in the Hotel Indigo in downtown Nashville, so, within easy reach of Ryman Auditorium and, many of the honky-tonks and bars that are on Broadway there in Nashville. Really enjoyed that. But Nashville during COVID times is an odd experience in that you're used to this crush and, people watching and all that in bars, and it just was almost non-existent. There are very few people in the bars, rightly so. Many of the restaurants are closed. It was, in some ways, almost spooky.
Yeah, Nashville, especially the bars, like you mentioned, the music, there's just so many people all the time. It's one town that has grown. I left Tennessee in 2004, and the city has literally exploded since then. It doesn't even look the same in many regards, so definitely hard to see that. But I think, things will get better over time.
Right. Are you a fan of the Goo Goo candy?
No.
No, really? Okay. Yeah, it's it's an acquired taste, I think, and they're super sweet. But we had to secure some of those for our neighbors and friends, passing them around, and maybe sending them into insulin shock or something like that before we departed town. And then we headed toward the Smoky Mountains, which I had done some driving in over the course of some vehicle launches and that kind of thing, but. This time around, that's the neck of the woods that you hail from, right? So tell us a bit about what people should know about the Smoky Mountains.
Yeah, so I'm from Oak Ridge, which is about 20 minutes or so east of Knoxville. It's probably the place that most people are familiar with in East Tennessee. But the Great Smoky Mountains National Park, I think, is the most visited national park, if I'm not completely mistaken. But a beautiful area, tons of traffic to get in. But once you're there, it really is just a stunning, stunning forest and stunning mountain views. Love hiking, camping, rock climbing, kayaking, canoeing, anything you can think of for outdoor sports is great. And it really is a 4-season park. They get snow in the winter, but it's not an abundance of snow. It gets cold, but it's nothing intolerable. And I say that now living in Maine. But even before I moved here, I think I felt pretty neutral about the weather there. The people are extremely nice. Once you can get through sort of the Pigeon Forge, Gatlinburg area and get out of the Ripley's, believe it or not, tourist trap there, it's absolutely gorgeous.
Yeah, absolutely. And the juxtaposition of that stuff, kind of like little Las Vegas almost. Of course, there's no gambling, but, just the Seversville, I think it's Seversville, or, that Gatlinburg kind of, wow, this is... kind of not what we expected necessarily. And then just the incredible scenic beauty of being in that national park and being able to tour that. It certainly was heavily visited during our stay. COVID was not keeping people out of the national park, that is for certain. But we hit the high points. We stayed at a place called the Dancing Bear Lodge. Had our own little log cabin that we loved. It was really cool. So then we ventured onward another 25, probably another 1,000 miles, and I'm running off the mouth about my own trip, and I hope it's somewhat interesting to everybody else out there. But it was just a terrific chance to drive a vehicle at length, to find out how good or not good it is, and we think that I wouldn't have traded the Toyota Highlander Hybrid for any other vehicle for this trip. It was just perfect for it. We got something like 31.4 miles per gallon for our 2,500 mile trek, which is pretty incredible for a 3-row SUV, and the drivability, terrific. Kudos all around.
Great. And I'm glad you got to see my home part of the country. It's a beautiful place.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So when we come back, we will be interviewing Jim Danahy. He is the executive chief engineer for the Chevrolet Tahoe and Chevrolet Suburban. So stay with us for that. With Chris Teague, this is Jack Nerad right here on America on the Road. Welcome back, everybody, to America on the Road. Jack Nerad back with you, and thanks so much for being with us. We really do appreciate it. We have a special guest for you. His name is Jim Danahy. He is the executive chief engineer on the Chevrolet Tahoe and Chevrolet Suburban. First of all, Jim, thanks so much for being with us. We do appreciate it.
Oh, thanks for having me. It's great to be here talking about the all-new 2021 Tahoe and Suburban that we're so proud of.
Yeah, I mean, it's not every day that we have an all-new Tahoe and Suburban. I don't know what the product cycle is. What is it, like every 7 years, something like that?
Yeah, it's 5 or 6, depending on how you count. So right in there, yeah.
Yeah. So, and this time around, I think very, very new stuff. I mean, not just incrementally improved, but I think very drastically improved. Why don't you take us through what consumers should know about the 2021 Tahoe and Suburban?
Yeah, thanks. We're really proud of the team that is behind the new Tahoe and Suburban. There's a lot of effort that goes into creating these great trucks for our customers. We have a really loyal customer base with Chevrolet Tahoe and Suburban, and I think we're 85 years running on the Suburban nameplate, so we're really proud of that. And we really spent a lot of time understanding from our customers what they were looking for in the all-new Tahoe and Suburban, and really what we tried to go after with this truck is just improving our ride quality, certainly providing premium interiors. That's a big thing for our customers. They spend a lot of time in these trucks, either by themselves or with their families or on long road trips or what have you. We really wanted to put a lot of technology into these new trucks, but put the right technology there that we thought people would use and appreciate. And that's really the kind of the foundation of what set everything up for what we've done with the Tahoe and Suburban for 2021.
Yeah, let me jump in just a little bit, because the U in SUV stands for utility, and in driving the Suburban, I didn't drive it for a really lengthy period of time, but a day or so. I found that there's more utility than ever. So talk a little bit about that, would you?
Yeah, that was one of the focuses that we had, and it really starts with the foundation of the vehicle. The trucks have all new frames under them, and part of that was going after changing to the independent rear suspension, which afforded us a lot that maybe the normal customer doesn't realize. But by going to the independent rear suspension, we were able to actually increase the utility of the truck. We were able to lower the load floor on the truck. In the third row, we were able to drop the floor by more than 5 inches, which provided us a couple of things. One, a really great third row seating experience for our customers, which is something we really wanted to improve. And then we were able to get the seats in the folded position down significantly, which affords you, again, much more cargo room. And then with the general body shape of the truck, we were able to sort of, when you open the rear hatch up, square up those corners and really provide a big aperture for folks. I actually recently moved my daughter into a condo, and I was able to put a full-size refrigerator laying on its back into the back of a Tahoe and close the rear hatch on the vehicle. So that's a good practical example of the kind of capability that we have.
Yeah, and really kind of immense capability. And, the Suburban is so much bigger than it was before. I mean, certainly it was a large vehicle, and it had the most useful third row previously. But you've really improved that, I think, very significantly. And you talked about how you were able to do it a little bit, but express that a little bit more and talk about things like the sliding second row and those kind of things.
Yeah, so, the Suburban, while it people have said, oh, it looks so much bigger. It's actually only 1% longer in length, but we were able to increase the max cargo by about 19%. So that's a testament to what our engineering teams were able to do with the efficiency of the package. But as you did say, yeah, we do have a new second row seat. You can slide fore aft in the vehicle. It provides more room if needed for the folks in the third row. And if you don't have somebody back there, you can slide it all the way back, so people can still sit behind you, but it still gives you a nice leg room to the front. And we've got these really great 12.6-inch rear infotainment screens, and so you can sit back there and relax and enjoy those as well. So we're really happy about that. It gives more versatility to the customer. Whether you've got 4 people or 7 people or 8 people in the vehicle, they all can sit in comfort, which is great.
Give me a little sense of the compare and contrast, the rear seats, the third row seats in the Tahoe versus the Suburban. Certainly the Tahoe is a shorter vehicle. Just walk me through that a little bit, would you? Just so I can understand a little better.
So for the third row, the trucks are essentially identical till you get to the back of the third row seat, and then the extra length all comes there. So whether you have a Suburban or a Tahoe, you get the exact same experience in the interior.
Okay. That's really interesting. You also increased the wheelbase, and that has some benefits too, doesn't it?
Yeah, certainly. I mean, that's part of what we've done in terms of there's a couple things that increasing the real wheelbase does for us. First of all, our styling partners love it. They love the wheels pushing them out to the corners. So that's a big benefit from a styling standpoint. But just an overall package, it's also a big improvement. It gives you more ability to be able to get easier entry egress into the second row with the positioning of the pillars and what have you. And then again, what we've done with the second row accommodations and the third row accommodations, much of that was because of the wheelbase lengthening that we were able to do.
Right, and you offer the choice, I think, of captain's chairs in the second row or bench seat in the second row, and I think you offer up to 9 passenger seating, which is one of the few vehicles out there that still offers that.
Yeah, so we have captain's chairs, so that would be, let's say, the 7 passenger configuration. So you got 2 in the front row, 2 in the second row, 3 in the third row, and then you can get the 60-40 split option in the second row, which gives you an additional occupant accommodation.
We glossed over a little bit. I mean, you alluded to the benefits of independent rear suspension in terms of cargo carrying and accommodations inside, but it also has, I think, ride and handling benefits. Talk about that a little bit, would you?
Yeah, absolutely. We're really proud of the ride and handling on the new Tahoe and Suburban. I think it's one of the hallmarks of the new vehicle. We've been getting really great response about it. And, it allows us to just control the wheels, better. It's just by geometry. We can tune the suspension a little more readily in the trucks. We offer the magnetic ride along with an industry first, or a segment first, not industry first, air ride adaptive suspension, which is great. It's a really good feature. It's an option that you can get on the trucks, and it affords a few things. One, certainly cargo leveling. It also has a feature where you can set it to lower when you stop the vehicle or park the vehicle for easier entry egress. We lower the vehicle by about 3/4 of an inch at highway speeds to improve aero. And then I forgot to mention it has basically a 2 inches up and 2 inches down that you can move it up. So if you're doing some two tracking or whatever, you can raise the vehicle up to get more ground clearance to get back into some of those places where some of our customers go, whether it's hiking or backpacking or camping or what have you. So the independent suspension does a lot for what we were trying to accomplish in the new Tahoe and Suburban all around.
Yeah. Very good. We're talking with Jim Danahy. He is Executive Chief Engineer on the new 2021 Chevrolet Suburban and Chevrolet Tahoe. And we thank him so much for being with us. Let's talk a little bit about infotainment and connectivity. I mean, certainly that has become very, very important for consumers. I think very important for consumers who are spending as much as they're going to spend on a new Tahoe or Suburban. Tell us a bit about what you offer there.
Yes, this was another one of our focal points as we were designing and developing these new trucks. And we offer a lot here. We've got the 10-inch diagonal color touchscreen. That's standard. There's an 8-inch reconfigurable instrument cluster on the Premier and the High Country. The other models come standard with the 4.2-inch. Then I mentioned we talked a little bit about the 12.6-inch diagonal LCD screens in the rear, and I'll come back to that in a second. But we also offer a 15-inch heads-up display. That's really, I think, a remarkable piece of technology. It helps. We have the right information up there that's selectable for our folks. It helps with safety, and keeping their eyes up on the road. And that's a really nice addition as well. We also offer wireless CarPlay and Android Auto, which I use when I was first getting in our test vehicles. It was sort of a novelty, but now when I go back to a vehicle that I have to plug my phone in to use it in the vehicle, it's really remarkable how convenient that is.
Yeah, I mean, it seems so 2019 to have to plug your phone in, right? I mean, it just seems like way back before the dawn of time. Once you have this new ability.
Yeah, it's so funny, right? It's one of those things where you didn't know you needed it until you got it, and then it was like, how did I ever live without this? You just come into the vehicle, set your phone on the wireless charger, it connects up, and you're hands-free, which is a big thing for us. Safety is huge for General Motors. It's a big item for us, especially distracted driving is a big focus for us, and this is just a real convenient way to be able to do that. And of course, you can use the steering wheel controls for voice control and what have you. So it's really a nice thing. And as I said, I didn't know I needed it till I have it, and now I can't live without it.
Right. It's kind of like driver's side doors on minivans. It's rear doors. It's like I remember when it's like, huh? Yeah, why wouldn't we want that? And it's exactly, a backup camera. Well, and speaking of backup cameras, I mean, both Tahoe and Suburban are larger than average vehicles, right? And I think maybe from the outside, when people look at them and they haven't been in them, they're somewhat intimidated by their size. But when I'm behind the wheel, I always find them to be very easy to maneuver, very easy to understand where the corners are, all of that. Talk a bit about maneuverability, parkability, all the things that you offer that way.
Yeah, certainly. These are, the largest vehicles in our normal fleet that we have. And depending on, where you are, sometimes it can be a challenge to park them, but I think we've done a nice job of, we have steering systems that, are controlled from a speed standpoint. So we lighten the efforts up, as you're coming into slow speeds and turning into parking lots. We've got some other technology like the new rear camera mirror, where you can flip the mirror and it turns into a screen basically. takes all the distraction of everything that's inside the vehicle and the pillars and everything, and gives you a direct view out the back of the truck. So that's really convenient on these. We certainly have.
But you can't peer into them and see how your hair
protection.
looks, Jim. I mean, that's the only downside.
You cannot. Well, but so you can flip your visor down and flip up for the mirror there. So
Exactly.
yeah. And then of course we have class-leading 9 camera views. So there, we have camera views that you can select where it'll, show you an overhead view of the truck as you're parking, and show you if you're in your spot and what have you. So that's really convenient as well. And when you're driving from that standpoint, we've got lane keep assist, adaptive cruise controls available. So there's all these creature comforts and safety features. We have 30 safety and driver's convenience items that are on these trucks, and whether you're going down the highway or being safe in a parking lot or pulling into your garage, they all come into play. I think seamlessly to work with these great trucks.
Right. Let's talk a bit about powertrain. It's interesting that we're coming to the end of the interview and just getting to powertrain, but a lot of stuff very much more important, I think, to consumers necessarily than the engines. But let's talk a bit about that.
Yeah, so we're going to have 3 engines available. 2 are available currently on our 6 trim levels. And so we have, the trim levels are the LS and the LT that our customers are very familiar with. We have the RST, which is the sort of the street-inspired truck. The Z71 is the off-roader, the Premier, and the High Country. For the LS, the LT, for most of them, let me put it this way. For most of our models, the 5.3-liter, 355 horse, 383 foot-pound of torque engine is the standard bearer for that. For the High Country, we have the 6.2-liter, 420 horse, 460 pound-feet of torque powertrain that is there. Both of those engines come with dynamic fuel management. We've got 12 firing modes that are seamlessly integrated to improve the fuel economy of the trucks with those engines in it. And then we've got something we're really excited about, which is the 3-liter Duramax diesel, which we're actually just this week building our what we call our saleable units, our first saleable units on. So this is coming in the not too distant future. But it's a 460 pound-feet of torque engine. It's a diesel, not the diesels of the past. It's a very modern diesel, very quiet, very refined. Actually, we just drove them last Friday at the proving grounds again, and just a very impressive package. We think a lot of people will opt for that when they get the opportunity to drive it, to understand it, and I think there's a lot of goodness there that people really appreciate it. And we're getting great feedback from the Silverado and Sierra on this engine, so we think that'll translate into the SUVs as well.
Yeah, I mean, the combination of torque and fuel economy there should be a great one for consumers, I would imagine.
Yeah, it is, and it's quiet too.
Yeah, very good. Anything else you'd like to add about, I think we could probably talk about Tahoe and Suburban all day. I think they're available now in dealerships, so people should run out and take a look to their Chevy dealership for the new Tahoe and Suburban for 2021. Anything else you'd like to add, Jim?
No, I'd just like to say thanks. We really appreciate being with you today. We're happy that they are out at your dealership, so go out and visit your local dealer. They'd be happy to see you. And like I said, I'm proud of the team, proud of what we've accomplished here, and I know our customers will be really happy with these great new Tahoe and Suburban for 2021.
Well, I can see you're proud of them. You should be. I've driven one. I really enjoyed it. And we've been talking with Jim Danahy. He is Executive Chief Engineer on the Chevrolet Suburban and Tahoe for 2021. Again, thanks so much for being with us, Jim.
Great. Thanks. Have a great day.
You too. And stay with us, everybody. We'll be right back right here on America on the Road. And that was our interview with Jim Danahy of Chevrolet, talking about the 2021 Chevrolet Tahoe and Chevrolet Suburban. Very important vehicles for Chevrolet, and I can't wait to drive them at further length. I've driven both of those at some length, but I'm going to drive them for a much longer period of time coming up, so look for that report. I'd also, of course, like to thank our inimitable, the greatest co-host of all time, Chris Teague, for being with us again, for braving the elements to go into his local studio there and talk to us. So thanks so much for being with us, Chris.
Well, it wasn't like I had to walk over broken glass to get here. I enjoy my time here, and I hope everyone else enjoyed their time listening to us. But I will say, if you enjoyed what you heard, you like our banter, you like where we're going, and like what we're talking about, hit the like button wherever you get your podcasts, subscribe to us, and leave us a review. All those things help us continue to grow so we can get in front of even more people and hopefully bring them along for the ride too.
Right. We'd love that, and we'd love you to check out, or at least I would. I don't know whether Chris would or not, but I think he probably would. We would like you to check out my book, The GR Factor, which is really about treating people well. I believe in it as a philosophy, and so I wrote a book about it. So you might want to check that out. If you like what we have to say on this program, I think you'll like The GR Factor. Check it out on Amazon and Barnes & Noble. It's available on Apple Books, and it's everywhere, practically, the GR Factor, so check that out. Thanks so much for being with us. And join us again next time right here on America on the Road. I'm Jack Nerad with Chris Teague. We thank you for listening to America on the Road.